Okay, the key here is we want to make our vegetables taste really great, but we don't want all the calories that go with it. One little secret I use soups, like I was telling you before. And you don't need a lot, just a little bit, maybe a tablespoon. I'm talking maybe 1/3 of the can is going to cook up a whole bunch of vegetables. We're going to mix it with a little bit of milk, a little bit of cooking sherry, that gives it that little bit of kicker, and then we're going to put maybe a teaspoon of cornstarch. This is what's going to make it into a sauce. Now I'm going to show you over at the stove. You got to be careful because you don't want to add the cornstarch when it's a hot liquid. You got to make sure you add it in cold. So we're going to take all these vegetables, we're going to heat them up. You can either use a pan, maybe it's about 3 minutes, or a microwave. It doesn't matter. I can show you how to do both. Okay, let's see how our vegetables are doing. Now I cut these up and I didn't have them in there much more than about 3 minutes. It looks like they're steaming. I put a little bit of water and I like them a little bit crispy. I think they taste better. Also, it holds on to that nutrition. So that looks pretty good to me. I think they're ready. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, we're going to drain our water, and then we're going to make our sauce. I think the hardest part about this is waiting for those vegetables to get done. There we go. So we put it back in the pan after we drain the water. And let me show you what we're going to do. We're going to get, and I'm telling you, there is not much more than just a tablespoon of cream of mushroom soup in that can. I wanted you to see that I'm not using that much at all. We're going to take a little bit of milk and we're going to put it in there. Okay, that gives it a little more nutrition, gives it that sauce, that creaminess. And then what we're going to do, we're going to mix that up, is we're going to take about a teaspoon of cornstarch. Now you don't want to put too much cornstarch because that'll make that sauce too thick. And if that happens, just add a little more milk to it. So we're going to just take about a teaspoon right there, okay? And I put about a half a can of milk in with that. So, and it really depends how many vegetables you have. If you have 2 pounds of vegetables, you might want to use a little more. We've only got maybe 2 cups worth. So I stir that up, and once again, you want to make sure to put the cornstarch in with the cold liquid, or else it's going to ball up and it's going to look like you have little dumplings in your vegetables. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take that, we're going to put it over the vegetables, and then we're going to let it cook. And then I'll show you how I add just a little bit of that cooking sherry just to spice it up a minute. So let's get that cooking. Okay, so then we turn those vegetables off. It's not going to take much to cook it once you get that cooking sherry in. Now I go ahead, maybe just a splash, just a little bit to spike it up a little bit. There we go. We don't want to overcook them. That looks absolutely perfect. And then what you can do with this is you can put it over some pasta. You could even throw some chicken in there, some tofu in there, bring in that protein. And boy, look at that. That's a meal in itself right there. Low in calories, high in fiber. You add the protein to it, you've got a complete meal. Or you can go ahead and put this over pasta. So you've got that sauce from the soup that's going to get right in there. And you can even throw some Parmesan cheese on that. Look how beautiful that looks. And that's quite a meal. Got a lot of fiber. Or you can take it, and one of my favorites is just go ahead and put it on that baked potato. Boy, that's another treat. And you've got your carbohydrates, so if you're out there running around, you're getting all the carbs that you need. And what I do too is I give it just a little more flavor, and I put a little bit of pepper on it. And maybe just a little bit. You don't need much because you're using a real strong cheese. Is I'll put some feta cheese on it, and you've got yourself a great meal. Something else that I do, instead of using mushroom soup, I'll use the cheddar cheese soup. And maybe you can see there I might have used maybe a tablespoon for a whole head of cauliflower. Fixed it the same way, a little bit of milk, a little bit of cooking sherry, pepper, and mixed it all up. The cornstarch thickened it, and look at how beautiful that is. And that's lower in calories because remember, we used the milk and we used just a little bit of that cheese soup to give it that flavor. Okay, so you got home from work and cutting up vegetables, or maybe we didn't go to the grocery store and get all the vegetables. You can always get frozen vegetables, right? You can keep these, and this is real easy. You just take those, you put them in the microwave, maybe about 3 minutes. They get done cooking. We're going to go ahead and drain the water on these. Now when you put the sauce in with this, because I'm going to show you how to do it with the microwave, Remember, it's going to take a little more time to cook than on top of the stove, so you got to figure that'll help cook the vegetables even more. And look how easy this is. We're going to go ahead and take maybe, look at that, we're going to only use maybe a tablespoon because we certainly don't need that much. And we're going to go ahead and just mix it up. We're going to add a little bit of milk with it. This gives it a little more nutrition, right? Gets that sauce rolling. And then we're going to add our cornstarch. Now this is like, you know, this is for that mom that you got the kids screaming in the background, "Where's dinner?" Everybody's so demanding, expecting you to have it just like that. Of course, it's almost just like that. We're going to just put a little bit, look at how little bit of cornstarch. And like I said, if you overestimate it, you can always just add a little more milk to it. That we'll go ahead and do that. And then you can add a little pepper to it even. Or you can add your favorite spices. Maybe pepper's not one of them. You could add, sometimes if I'm going to make it for the kids, I even put a little honey in it. It sweetens it up a little bit. And there we go, a little bit of the cooking sherry. Now I use Parmesan cheese. Once again, it kind of gives it a little more flavor. I'm probably using less than 2 teaspoons. And I can come back and put a little feta, or you don't even need to put the cheese if you don't want to. Okay, let's go ahead and put that back in the microwave, maybe about 2 minutes, and let's see how that looks. Now when I put it in the microwave, what I'm going to do is I'll put it in for a minute because it's going to cook around the edges. I'll take it back out, stir it, and wait about another minute. And you should have an awesome little meal with vegetables that you can add all kinds of things in it. Okay, looks like they're ready. There we go. Let's take our frozen vegetables out and let's look at what they look like. Okay, look at that. Now you could cook it a little longer if you wanted the sauce. That's nice and creamy. And keep in mind, that right there, you're probably looking definitely less than 100 calories. Okay, a lot of fiber in there. And let's see what we can do with this. We can take our good old friend, the baked potato. And listen, don't limit yourself to a white potato. You can use a sweet potato. It works great with a sweet potato. But we can just throw all the vegetables right on top of that potato. Look how beautiful that is. Then if you wanted to add a little more to it, you could. You could add a little more chicken to it. Or you could have that on the side. Look at that. Now that's a lot of food, a lot of great nutrition. And that is something you can really put your teeth right into. So sauces, since we're on the topic, let's talk about them. You look at a normal sauce that you might buy at the grocery store, and you're going to look at the serving size. You got to look at the labels. The serving size is 1/4 serving, 110 calories. It can be a little confusing because you're thinking, wow, it's only 110 calories a serving, but it's 7 servings in a jar. So this whole jar is about 750 calories. So you use half the jar, right? That'd be about right. You're still up around 400 calories. Versus what we did, we used a tablespoon with a little bit of milk. You're down around maybe 80 to 100 calories for the same amount of sauce. When you start adding in the extra calories, you change the whole balance equation. Now what used to be really healthy and balanced is no longer balanced. You gotta eat smart and you gotta be smart. Okay, so let's say you want the flavor of butter, but you don't want the calories of butter, right? Okay, here's what we do. We put a little bit of water in with our vegetables. We steam them. We get them going. There they are. They're cooking. They've been cooking maybe about 3 minutes. They're nice and steamy. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 tablespoons of butter, maybe not even. You can decide. Don't use the whole stick, though. Not a good idea. So we just want a little flavor of the butter, and we're going to throw it in there, okay? And you can go ahead and add a little bit of salt. If you're on a salt-free diet, then you don't have to. Maybe a little pepper, any of the sauces. We're going to put the butter in there. We're going to stir it around. So we got a lot of the water in there. Now remember, one got out of the pan. We'll put them back in. There we go. Now remember, 2 tablespoons of butter is only going to be about 100 calories, but it's not going to stick with those vegetables. And then we're going to cover it, and we're going to turn it off, and we're going to wait. Maybe about 5 minutes, it'll simmer, and then let's see how it looks. Okay, then the vegetables are done, they've simmered. Then you're going to get a spoon that's got some holes in it, right? So you're not picking up, you just swish those around. You can even throw some pasta noodles in there if you wanted, just to make it interesting. You take your vegetables out, and what you're doing is you're actually saving the calories. It'll pick up just a little hint of the butter. And then what we're going to do is we're going to eat them. We've got no calories in there, very little. All the vegetables and the taste of butter without the calories. The first thing we're going to prepare is spaghetti squash. And it looks like this in the grocery store. It kind of looks like a honeydew melon, but it's not. The great thing about spaghetti squash is there's some carotene in it. Really filled with a lot of vitamins and minerals. That's really good for your eyesight. Good stuff. Now this is what it looks like when you cut it in half. You take the seeds out, and then you're going to put it in the microwave. And what I do is I put a little bit of water in it so it doesn't get dried out. Sometimes you may have to level out the bottom. You're going to put it in the plate. You're going to cook it maybe 8 to 10 minutes in the microwave. It's going to get really soft. You're going to empty the water, and then you're going to have this nice half squash that's going to be ready to be made into spaghetti squash. You take a fork and you just go, look at how beautiful that is. You just go along the edges and look at that. And let me tell you something. This whole squash here, the whole squash, may be about 100 calories. So the great thing with vegetables, as you know, is the high fiber, the low calories, and the fact that you can use them to really balance out your meals. The thing is, this actually is a beautiful presentation. I just love the color, and look at that. See how it looks just like spaghetti at about 1/5 the calories, right? And a lot of fiber. Of course, if we're using our whole wheat spaghetti, then we know we're getting the fiber there. So we get that spaghetti squash. We get, look at that. See how that is just such a beautiful, and it tastes really good. And then what you're going to do is, that right there is probably 30 calories, loaded with some vitamins and minerals, and we're going to put a little bit of tomato sauce. Now, a whole half a cup of tomato sauce is about 80 calories, and it's 2 grams of protein and 2 grams of fiber, so it's got a little protein and fiber going for it. Then we're going to take some feta cheese. Now, I like to use strong cheeses, so we don't have to use as much of it. So we put some feta cheese, and you know, you could even mix some other vegetables in this, or even put some chicken on it if you wanted to put a little more protein. That makes a great side dish. You can't even make a meal. And right there, you're probably looking at 150 calories most, and you've got a great fiber dish. That spaghetti squash takes maybe 8 to 10 minutes to make, and that's including the time you're in the microwave. One of my favorite recipes, I have it on the website so you can check it out. I use parsley and spinach. I call it the green boost of energy for your blood. So it's a mean green boost for your blood. And it's great because it's fast, and I'm going to show you how to do it so you can get an idea of how fast it is. I use a little sherry. Again, you're going to think I'm a little bit of an alcoholic using all this sherry and cooking wine, but it really does give your recipes a little bit of kick without the calories. I go ahead and get the cooking sherry cooking, and I throw in the onions. I get everything started. Now you have to be careful because you don't want to add the oil in your recipes when that temperature is on high. Because what happens is, as soon as you start cooking, like when you start frying foods and you've got a good oil, that oil goes bad because it turns it into a trans fat. So you want to make sure that you cook most of your things in a liquid base. So everything we do, you'll notice, is always in a liquid base. And if we do add the oils, it's going to be at the end when we turn it off and simmer it. So you don't want to just fry oil by itself with food, okay? With the vegetables that we did with the butter, we also had it in with the liquid, and that's real important. We just didn't fry it with the butter on high. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to take some garlic. Now, I love garlic. I think it's really awesome. And with the garlic, what you want to do is you want to get a garlic press, because what this does is it just takes that garlic and really magnifies the flavor. Because you're throwing there and you're giving that garlic just a little more concentration than just chopping it up. I love these garlic mashers. Really, really good stuff. So we get that going. And if you're a real garlic person, you can add a lot more than what I have on the recipe. So we get that going. And then we go ahead and we get our spinach. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. We get our spinach. Where'd that spinach go? Here it is. I've already drained it. I got it out of the microwave. And we're going to take that spinach. Now this is just frozen spinach. And depending if you're putting in frozen from the freezer or you thawed it out, but it looks just like this. It's a block of spinach. I thawed it out, and then I put that in the microwave maybe 3 or 4 minutes, soften it up, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in here and get that cooking. Now what I do is I like to get that spinach with all those flavors. Maybe add a little more. You can also add some water in if you don't want to have all that cooking wine. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our parsley and we're going to throw that in. Now that's a cup of parsley I put in there. And we just let that. Now I like to keep the parsley somewhat raw, so I don't want to cook it too much. I'm going to turn that down a little more. I'm going to add in some olive oil. Maybe just a tablespoon or two. It depends on how much spinach you have. You don't even need to put, just kind of gives it a little more flavor. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some whole wheat couscous. Now this is great. Now this is whole wheat couscous. And the formula for that makes it so awesome is it soaks up some of that liquid, but also the whole wheat couscous has a lot of fiber in it. The regular couscous, you're missing the fiber. So we're going to throw in a little couscous, and you don't need that much, okay? Depending on how much liquid you have. And the great thing about couscous is it really just gets right in there and it cooks so fast. Look at how little they are. They're just like little grains. They almost look like grits. And you just let that roll, and that's going to get in there. It's going to soak up a lot of that liquid. A little more, and then while that's cooking, then what I'm going to do, I'm going to cover it so the moisture stays in. And then I'm going to take my tofu. Now I get the firm tofu, and you notice in the book we talked about tofu. It has omega-3. In fact, 1 block of tofu has 1 gram of omega-3. So I'm going to take the tofu, and if you're a real tofu lover, then you maybe want to do more or less, but let's just use a half a block. Now the great thing about tofu is it picks up the moisture of and the flavor of everything that's in there. So if you use tofu with some of our sauces that we had with the soup cans, it also would help enhance the flavor because it would be like a little sponge and it would soak up some of that awesome flavoring. And we're going to use it in this recipe because it gives it nutrition, right? And it also is going to help soak up some of that flavor. So we're going to do it in cubes, and we really want to wait until we know that couscous is nice and tender. Boy, that looks good. Look at how that couscous got really large there. When we first put it in, it kind of blows up a little bit. And so then what we're going to do, and you really, you don't need any salt in this because that spinach gives it enough of a flavor that I really think you're going to be fine, even if you're somebody that can do salt. But that's what I love about this, is it's very strong flavors. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take the tofu, we're going to throw it in there because you don't want to put the tofu in. You want to make sure it kind of doesn't crumble in all small little pieces. So you got the tofu in there, you're mixing it around. And you know, sometimes I even put tomatoes in this, and it really kind of gives it a little more of a punch, and it makes it really pretty for company to have that red with the tomatoes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cover it, we're going to turn it off, and then we're going to get some feta cheese, and we're going to just take the feta cheese, we're going to put it on top. Now you want to be careful because you don't want to do the feta cheese while it's cooking, because that'll just dissolve it. And we're going to put it aside, and we're going to wait, and let's see what it looks like. That's a one heck of a wrap, isn't it? You can really load it up. You can put in it as much as you want or as little as you want. Now what makes it so special to me, I think, is the fact we're using the superfood parsley. Parsley in itself is just really awesome. It's kind of tough to figure out how to cook with it. Of course, there's tabbouleh, But this parsley right here, that's probably about a cup worth of parsley, maybe a cup and a half, and that's equivalent to about 6 ounces of iron that you would find in meat is equivalent right here with that parsley. So you've got the meat for 4 ounces that's got a lot of iron in it, yes, but you've also got the parsley. This is going to be 35 calories, and that meat is going to be a little higher in calories, right? Still a lot of good things in there, but we're trying to balance out our foods. So this is a really good boost for the blood just because of all the iron and also all the phytochemicals that are in there that really give it that high amount of energy boost.